Remakes are all the rage today, and this season is no different than any other, except maybe the fact that there's more of them I'm looking forward to. Tonight I get to watch the first of them, Magnum PI.
Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing.
I Saw the Sunrise, Episode 1, Season 1, Magnum PI. And let's just get the basics out of the way. This new Magnum PI is a CBS show, and it is pretty much slamming in using the same base formula that the original show did. It has a new cast, of course, but the characters are more or less the same, well, with one major exception. And all in all you need to know about it is that instead of the Vietnam War being where the buddies all bonded, this time it was the Afghanistan War. And you'll know that if you followed me for any length of time, that's how I thought they should redo G.I. Joe. Because at the end of the day, yeah, desert environment's different than a jungle environment, but going to war is going to war. Basically, these guys are doing pretty good. Overall, the series looks to be pretty good, but I'm hesitant to give it a rating just yet. It definitely has potential, though. I'd say right now it falls in the silver category, with a lot of potential for it to maybe go gold. For those of you that don't know what I do here, though, what I do is I review stories, come up with concepts of how and why we tell stories, and basically, I'm taking a deep look into the heart of all the stories we tell. Every once in a while, I do reviews like this, but mostly I do weekly reviews of shows, a lot dealing with comic books. If that sounds interesting to you, click subscribe. This new actor definitely has the sex appeal that Tom Selleck did back in the 80s, so that's good. But there's a few other characters that they've changed. We're going to go with in a meaningful way. Higgins always had this thing where he was doing something weird and kind of odd as Magnum would run by and find out what's going on for the individual episode. And they do keep that. But it just doesn't feel the same. Overall, though, the show is pretty good, and I definitely am going to give it more of a shot. But for now, let's throw this up there and get started.
So once again, it's stop. Spoiler time. Ba-da-na-na.
So our main character gets the poop knocked out of him just as easily as he used to. And in general, most of it follows a pretty standard formula. It does have a little bit of crossover with Hawaii 5-0. The setting is the same setting that it was way back when. He is in the beautiful islands of Hawaii, and I guess that's part of the allure of Magnum PI, so it was necessary. The characters themselves, for the most part, didn't have a major change either. Well, with some minor exception. They have 4 friends instead of 3 because one of them's going to be dead at the end of the first episode. Gee, I wonder who that is. Could the camera make it any more plain? And again, other than that, it's the 3 friends and Higgins. And they all pretty much are the same exact characters they were way back when. They're just slightly updated, with the one exception we'll go into in a minute. The plot itself is pretty run-of-the-mill. I mean, it's really just a PI. I do appreciate the fact that they kept the voiceovers, though. That's one of those things that shows don't do enough anymore, and it brings that noir feel, the PI that's on his own. And of course, our point of view character is Magnum, and we follow him. But let's talk about Higgins. So they change Higgins from a grumpy old British guy to a hot young British woman. And I have to say, I don't mind so much. They did some pretty amazing stuff. But at the same time, there were a couple of scenes where I was sitting there going, yeah, that's just body shots for the sake of doing body shots. The whole Zeus and Apollo thing was hysterical time and time again, though. And I do love that part of the relationship with Higgins. Although it does seem that it's going to be a little less, because they've already got this Higgins already paying more attention to him, the way Higgins used to at the end of the multiple-year run. The tight friendship that was formed over mutual respect kind of has already formed, which showcased by the fact that she already offered to help. And when she did, oh boy, was she helped, because, she has that magical movie martial arts where a 120-pound girl kicks the shit out of a guy twice her size. Overall, Magnum PI is totally a military action dealing primarily right now with this one case. But overall, it's a PI, so they could do anything they want. They can do fast cars, they can do broken up marriages, they can do find and retrieval, they can do kidnappings. And that gives us an episode of the week feel that could make this pretty good. Like I said, though, the fast cars is part of it, and I love the fact that they got the same director that did The Fast and the Furious, and I love just how upset people got at the damage to the cars. What do you mean you've ruined a car? Why don't you call an Uber? What am I, 16? It's pretty good, pretty funny stuff. Of course, by the end of all that, they had to include a major chase sequence. And there's part of me that actually kind of laughs off that the beginning that's in Robin's book is also the end with what goes on in the show itself. But I jumped ahead. First, they have to find the gold, which is a classic PI MacGuffin. And yeah, I know this is my gold rating one, but since they literally found gold bars, I figured it was appropriate. And then, booyah! We have to go for the kick-ass action sequence that's totally unrealistic, and like, seriously, there's, I don't know, 100 different ways that this looks fake and is just totally unbelievable. But that's okay, because, hell, I watch comic book shows, so, this totally is more realistic than people flying in their underoos, right? So it's action, it's adventure, and it's a little bit noir mixed with a little bit of 80s flair brought into a modern day. It's actually pretty cool. The entire thing ends with a funeral, and that's a sad sort of downer ending, but at the same time, it's a new beginning. The fact is that, like I said, they're obviously playing up the romance relationship here this time with Higgins, but at the same time, they're showcasing us that this is a story that can be told many ways. We've already watched Magnum PI the first time. This time, we're watching it all new, a different take, a different story, and that could make all the difference. But I'm curious what you all thought. How many of you actually watched Magnum as a kid, and how many of you watched this rerun, or recasting? I really liked it, and the fact that there were Murphy Brown commercials just makes me laugh at the nostalgia. But before you go away, if you could do me a favor and like and share this video, and of course, if you haven't already, subscribed. And I'd like to also bring up another level of help you could be. My Patreon is up and running, and so far I have 0 people to thank as patrons. If you're really enjoying my content, jump in and help me become part of my little crew there. And help me build the channel. In general, I like talking about stories, and this is one of those ones that because we've already seen it, we get a chance to look at a special in-depth way of how the storytelling way changed since the 80s. And I think that that'll be how I'll address next time. But for now, I hope that you have a good night, and thank you for walking with me through the heart of Magnum PI.